Oh dear.
What?
Rain.
Rain.
Aye.
Right. Supposed to be when we start. How often? Wow.
One of the major reasons Middle English is so difficult for us to understand nowadays is because of the great vowel shift. And this is a shift of all the long vowels in English between about 1400 and 1650. That's when the bulk of it happened. Obviously, there were still some vowel changes after that, but most of it happened in that sort of 250-year period. It's important to remember the great vowel shift did not happen identically across the entire country. What you will usually read about is how it affected the southeast, but I'm doing a little project at the moment to try and work out how it might have affected the northwest of England, but that's for another video. If we take an example from Old English, let's say something like mean starn, the N seemed to disappear at some point in due course, so we'll just say me starn. For several hundred years this was pronounced very much the same, and by 1400 all that had changed was that the vowel in wind, I don't know how much the wind's interfering, but the vowel in starn had just become more closed and more rounded, so rather than being me starn, it was me storn. 100 years later in 1500, the vowel in me had started to break or fracture, it started to diphthongize. So there's a very subtle difference at the start between E in me and E as in me. You can hear the very subtle difference. It's rather than just being one place of articulation, there are two target places of articulation, and the tongue glides between the two. E, E, me storm. Oh, low battery. I'll go on for as long as I can. By about 1600, 1650, this diphthongization process had become, it really set in, and you had something like me storm. And then by 1700, it had gone a bit further, and also the vowel in storn had started to break as well. So you'd have had something like my stone. And then today, obviously, we have my stone, which is, you know, at any given point along the way, you know, a given person in their lifetime is not necessarily going to notice that anything's changing. Of course, they might change their own pronunciation throughout their lives, but so slowly they just wouldn't have noticed, especially at a time when there was no recording equipment. So you couldn't listen to how people spoke 70 or 80 years ago. So it was very, very gradual, really, although it seems like it happened very quickly in hindsight. Vowel changes happen all the time, but during the Great Vowel Shift it seems like all of the long vowels changed at once, and in some cases there's been a sort of knock-on effect, where one vowel slid into the place of the other and sort of displaced it, pushed it into another place. So for example, what was originally air in Middle English becomes e, what was originally e in Middle English becomes e, and what was originally e in Middle English, as I've just said, becomes e, becomes diphthongized. So there are some cases where without any discernible delay, it just sort of, you know, they move into each other's places, and those at the end of the chain, as it were, become diphthongized as a diphthong that wasn't in the language before. It's meant to be the hottest day on record in UK history today. I'm not convinced, but it's still quite hot. Another thing the vowel shift did is it caused certain vowels to merge, certain pairs of vowels to merge. So in the 1500s you would have had C and Se, whereas by the 1700s you just had C, and indeed today you only have C, just with a different spelling. When two vowels merge like that, they cannot become separate along the same lines again, if you see what I mean. So sound change has no memory. So if another sound change were to happen that picked up words with an E sound, it wouldn't remember that once some of those words had an E sound. It's totally without memory, so it would split them along completely different lines if it split them at all. So once two sounds have merged, as far as sound change is concerned, they're the same sound, and there was never any distinction between them. It's interesting. So, to illustrate the effect of the vowel shift, here are some nice examples. I kommer från mitt hus, nu I'm here. I came from my house, no, I'm here. I came from my house, no, I'm here. I came from my house, now 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 I'm here.